to Welcome Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and I'm finally doing the review for Anglo, Saxon Attitudes by Angus Wilson. Now, I was apprehensive about doing this review because I felt like I'm not sure if I understand the message. I mean, it's not a hard read, and I'm not ignorant or anything. It's just I'm trying to understand what the intention of the author was. I did read the introduction by Jane Smiley, and I think I understand, and I did write a review. I still did write my review on Goodreads, and, I pasted this, on Storygraph, and I looked at other people's reviews as well. That's what I usually do if it's a book that's a little more challenging as far as understanding. Because it's not that hard to read, and I got what was going on in the plot, So it's our main character is Professor Gerald Middleton of Oxford. He's a professor and historian of Oxford, and he's being offered an editorialship. And he has one competitor, this Professor Clun, who most people don't like, and they prefer Gerald over Professor Clun. I don't know if I'm saying his name right. And he's kind of still has a guilty conscience over something that happened years ago, where he was part of an archaeological dig on a bishop's body was discovered with a relic that was pagan. And he suspects that his friend, his acquaintance, was the one that he had set it up. That it was a hoax on his part. That he placed it in the bishop's grave. And now he wants to resolve that issue. Meanwhile, he had an affair with the guy's wife, but since they've broken off, Gerald was married, had a wife, Inge, who was a Scandinavian woman. She was a Dane. And they have 3 children, Robin, John, and Kay. And not only was Gerald cheating on Inge, but he doesn't have a very high opinion of her. She's a very emotional person and is all about wanting everything to be good and pleasant. And, he is very judgmental of her. And she is she is aware of his affair and everything and tries to sweep it under the rug. She kind of coddles their children, and they become and I feel like from what I read about, they were very spoiled children. That got away with clinging to their mother, but at the same time not really respect her. And they didn't respect their father either. But I got the impression their father might have not been as active in their lives, because he was more about his profession as a professor and a historian, and that was the world he understood. And he also finds out at one point in the book that his son John is gay, and he did not know that. He didn't know about his son John's, that his sexuality was that he was gay. And there is a subplot of him having a new boyfriend, this Irish boy who is known for stealing, and he's a manipulative, and he's not a great guy, and he cons his way into people's lives so that eventually he can steal from them if they have something worth stealing. And he ends up charming their Inge, because Inge clings to her son John. He is her precious Johnny. He is her favorite, and he's been constantly isn't around anymore, and she believes his friends take him away from her. And then when his new boyfriend Larry that's his name, comes along and charms Inge, and in a way brings Johnny home to her, although he still, he still feels like very much like a workaholic. She is very happy, very accepting of Larry, and refuses to believe that he is a thief. She won't accept it. And so it's kind of about Gerald's relationship with his family and friends, and his, compared to this hoax he's trying to investigate and get proof that it was a hoax. And of course, no one wants to admit that it's a hoax, because then it will make them look bad. It will ruin the reputations of the people involved. And, God forbid they do that. And so Gerald, and it's a very slow book. There's not a lot going on except for, so it's very much, if you're interested in academia, it's different from dark academia, I feel like, because there's no like murder involved or anything like that. It's kind of more of a life of an academic, and more like, it's like academic but a slice of life kind of thing, with this whole mystery of this hoax. And a lot of very unlikable characters, which I guess that's a staple of dark. I feel like that's a bit of a staple for dark academia. There's several unlikable characters, but I did like Gerald. I did like Professor Gerald Middleton. I really felt for his character, because he didn't really understand his family. But he was now. Don't get me wrong. I think he was also kind of a snob towards his family and judgmental of them, just as his. I feel like his wife was kind of judgmental of him, and so were his kids. And it really looks at the whole idea of the difference between the two generations. Gerald was from the old world, the very English way of doing things, and his kids are the new generation, where they're questioning everything, and there's always that butting heads of that type of relationship, I feel like, because you can never meet in the middle, because they're always both sides are always saying that it's better going by my way of doing things, like the traditional way is better or the modern way is better. And this was written in the 50s, so it's modern version of the modern as in the 1950s modern. It's not like it was not written today. And which I think is kind of the theme, is a critique of being English and what is un-English, because there are a lot of characters that are not English. Like Inge is Scandinavian. If you know your history, the Saxons took over. We're trying to take the territory from the Danes. And, we might have been Danish at one time, which it's funny that, I don't know, I can't say I did this pick this book out on purpose because I was reading this one series, but I'm reading Bernard Cornwell's The Saxon series. So I don't know if I was thinking about this or not at the time because I was reading that, but it's just kind of funny that I'm reading that series, which is about that exact war, and this book kind of like that war is kind of in the back of this book. Like, I mean it's not, but it kind of references with the title and everything. But anyway, back to English versus un-English. You also have like his son Robin's mistress is French. And I think Johnny also dated her. So I guess I think Johnny is also bisexual. So I think he's been with women too. Although they don't say, like, the French woman Elvira, I think she refers to him as gay. But I do think Elvira also dated Johnny. And I think she's French. But I think also, but I do know that the way that Robin's ex-wife, Marie Helene, I think that's how you say it, she is French. And he also, there's other characters that he kind of makes a comment or he doesn't like them, like this. He critiques them, and so it's just there's this writer that shows up later that is friends with Marie Helene, and she thinks him and Gerald would hit it off and be friends, but he, in the back of his mind, he's thinking this guy's annoying, I don't like him. And he's talking to Gerald, and Gerald doesn't understand him because he doesn't know the language. And so Gerald is kind of judgmental. I like his character, but yeah, I can acknowledge that he's judgmental and he's a bit of a snob himself. And he has that mentality of that person who lives in their books and thinks that, because they're so smart, that they're better than other people, which hopefully I don't give off that vibe, because I know I'm very much a person that lives in their books. I mean, I'm not an academic, but I do love reading, so I hope I don't ever give off that vibe of thinking. I mean, although one time there was someone who thought someone once, like, said I was a snob. Which I kind of brushed it off because it's like, I mean, it was kind of annoying when I was like, I like reading. What? Because I like to read? Because I'm smart? Like, reading automatically, if you read a lot, it increases your vocabulary. So is that why? Because I sound so, or because I read classics or something and I have to dumb myself down, or I shouldn't read that when I'm talking to, certain people? I did not get it. But anyway, so I just hope I don't ever, like, come off in a really bad way, come off as a snob. But, I'm sorry, I kind of feel bad for Inge. I kind of pity her a little bit, but then there are times when, I can see where she can be irritating and frustrating. Like, as I mentioned, Johnny has a boyfriend, Larry, and he and Inge have been hanging out together, and Inge made the mistake of showing Larry her jewelry, and she trusted him with that, and then it goes missing, and she ends up realizing, oh my god, he did steal from me because he's the only person. And he tries to con his way out of it and being like, and kind of gaslight her and be like, oh no, you are mistaken. How dare you accuse me of that? And she tries to get tough with him and stand up to him, but he just manipulates her and is like, what do you think Johnny would say if you try to get rid of me? And he says, and he gets really mean and bullies her, and she's like, literally closes her ears and eyes because all of a sudden he's not such a nice person anymore. And she's like, it's like that, every time now I always think about when I see a character like that tries to, close their ears and cover and, pretend like they can't hear, which I gotta admit I do that sometimes when I'm watching, when a booktuber's talking about a book that I've been meaning to read, and then I didn't expect them to bring up that book. I mean, I should. And I'm like, I don't want to hear it because I don't want to feel guilty. And not that's just me. I end up feeling, because I end up having a guilty conscience because I haven't picked up that book. Or like there's, a part in a show or movie that I don't want to, watch or see. Like there was recently a Buffy episode that came up where there's a part that is hard for me to watch. I'm like tuning it out. But so I do that, for certain sometimes too. But, when it's someone who's saying, but in this case, I think it was something that she needed to hear to realize that Larry's genuinely not a nice guy. And plus, he was probably going to take from her anyway when she was not looking. And that's why she needed to pay attention. And she's just tuning it out, and he leaves her. He ditches her. And then Johnny, and, she should not have showed him her jewelry. Because she didn't know this kid. She thought she did, but she really didn't. She didn't know anything about it. She hadn't known him that long. And she was warned by Gerald not to trust this kid because of what he heard. Now, maybe it's better to give someone the benefit of the doubt. But and he had no proof, which I think is why he didn't push it, because he knew that, Inge would not accept, no matter what he said. She would never believe it, because all she knows is that he brought her son back to her. And she's just, but it was, and Johnny just gets mad at her and blames her, even though Larry was the one who took it. He was the thief. But Johnny really wants to save this kid. He thinks, oh, I can help him, and now Mom has just ruined it for me. And it isn't until later that he realizes, he starts to really see the true, the true Larry, who he really is. And he gets mad at his mom, and it's like, how dare you, you're so stupid. And it's like, even if it was not right of her to show him the jewelry because she barely knew this kid, despite what she tells herself, I still think these kids need to respect their parents, and they don't. They have no respect for them. They just dismiss them. Like when Gerald's having a conversation with his son about about his own affair, and telling him, be careful, because Gerald himself had an affair. So he can, of course he assumes that he can understand and relate, and maybe he could give his son advice. But of course, Robin, it was somewhat respectful, it was like, well, no offense, but, or at least he tries to be polite, I should say. He's polite to his dad. Is like, well, no offense, Dad, but it's not the same thing, because he just assumed, oh, we love each other, we'll stay together. And then, it doesn't work out, is all I'm going to say. And just that assumption that his dad is, like, I don't know. I've always respected my dad. And, there are some times where I don't agree. Every so often, there's times where I don't agree with him. But mostly, I'm very respectful to my dad. I mean, I can act like a brat. Especially when I'm frustrated or angry. But mostly, I'm very respectful. So, to me, both to my dad and my mom. So, if anyone I do not find if someone disrespects their parents is very attractive. I mean, I hope if I ever do date someone and fall in love with them, hopefully they will be respectful to their parents, because if they aren't, then they're going goodbye. Because to me, that's a deal breaker. But anyway, but yeah, it frustrated me to no end how his kids just treated Gerald. He may be a snob, and maybe he just have a little bit of that arrogant mentality and be better than because he knows more, he knows a lot, but I still think that he deserves respect from his family, and he doesn't get it. And Inge, she's not mean to her husband, but she does, in my opinion, something that's, worse, which is that whole, like, woe is me, poor me, you're not very nice to me, you're mean. And, she's all like, she babies her kids, and then, it was like, Gerald isn't very nice, or like, oh, kids, you need to be nicer to your dad, because he's just trying to help, even though he's mean, he doesn't really mean it. That kind of condescending, that whole, where you're not actually mean to the person, you're not, you don't, but you kind of throw yourself a pity party and make it seem like you're being a martyr and that you're being kind to them and trying to help them out, when really that these people, you probably know that no one is gonna, the only reason they might be nice to that person is because you asked them to do it. And, to me, that's manipulation in itself. That's how I interpret Inge's character. She's not a villain, she's not like an antagonist in the sense that she's she's mean to Gerald or anything. Like, she's unaware of her manipulation, or I don't know, I'm having a hard time explaining it. But I've had people in my life, like I know at least one person in my life that is like that, where they're very much woe is me. Um, but like I said, it's, so like I said, what I think the message is like looking at, like I said, I feel like the message is comparing English to un-English. Um, and just, the differences between the ways of thinking and the cultures and everything. And because and she's very much not of the English culture, the traditional English culture. Also, we do get, there are discussions of politics a little bit in there. Like Robin and Johnny do not get along, and Robin and Donald is Kay's husband, don't get along. In fact, Donald tries to work for Robin, but they don't see eye to eye. And I feel like I think if I remember, like everyone liked Donald, but Robin was the boss, and he didn't like how Donald was doing things, and he believed Donald was ruining the company and driving it into the ground, which put a wedge between him and Kay, his sister Kay. And they're all, like, the siblings do not get along. There's a lot of tension there. And I feel like the only thing that they agree on is their father and their mother and how they feel about their parents. I think that's the only thing they agree on. So there was a lot going on in this. A lot of interesting discussions and like characters that gave me very strong feelings and opinions. But I think it was really good. Definitely worth the read. Like I said, it is a bit slow. And if you want to get the part about, and the focus is more on Gerald and his family and that drama rather than the whole academic hoax and everything. That kind of it's introduced in the beginning of the first part, and then the middle is mostly about his relationship with his family, and then it's the last part where we get back to the whole hoax and the tomb and everything, and him interviewing people and asking them if they know about it. And like I said, all those people don't want to talk about it, but he is able to persuade some people to talk about it. There are excerpts at the end that are kind of parts of the whole of articles on the whole discovery of the tomb and everything, which it's so weird because I did read a review, and for some reason that person said it was really long and tedious, and possibly boring. I don't remember exactly, but I remember the impression I got was they thought it was like too long, and I was like, and to me it was not that long. I mean, there was there were some articles that were like 2 pages, but I don't get why they thought it was so long, because it wasn't. Unless you just find it boring. And you could, like I said, it's academic articles on this tomb and everything. And it really, highlights some of these other characters, the academics, the professors' personalities, because there are a couple of them that just, there's the rivalries between them. Like I said, Professor Klun is very arrogant, and like Gerald accepts the editorship, and he wants this other professor to put something put his article or whatever, his academics to his, I don't know what it is, his, be involved in, the editorial. But he's kind of like, I don't know, I'll think about it, but you have to do this for me first. Because there are and there's one character who is, she is seen as unstable, and she's getting older, and they're trying to get her to drop her opinions on it, which I felt bad for her because, you know, they were dismissing her and trying to bully her into keeping quiet about her thoughts on the matter. And her articles is in there too. So yeah, I don't know what else to say. I just thought this was really good, really worth the read, and I didn't see any other reviews on YouTube, on BookTube, that were about this book. So that's why I decided in the end I was going to do this review, because I feel like I would love to see people reviewing this book. So hopefully eventually other people will come across this book. Maybe I can get some of you guys to read this, and check it out. And, you know, maybe you'll understand it better. You know, maybe you'll give a better review than I am. Anyway, so if you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up. Click subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell notification below if you want to be notified about my latest videos. And I hope you're enjoying your reading, and I will talk to y'all later. All right, bye!